Huh. Well, move over, Beatles, because it looks like there's a new favorite in town. I know this may come as a bit of a shock, but the truth is, some of the music I listen to isn't made by the Beatles. I know, I just broke the 11th commandment, and if that's too much for you to handle, I totally understand if you would like to unsubscribe right now. But if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, then don't do that. Yeah. So today I thought I'd talk about some of my favorite albums and songs from 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Now, before all this starts, I would like to preface by saying that all these songs and albums I'm about to discuss are just my personal favorites. I'm in no way trying to say that they are the definitive best pieces of music out there, because I haven't listened to all the music out there, so I guess what I'm trying to say is just don't take this too seriously. If I missed your favorite, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Now on with the show.
You shun that house in New Orleans. They call it the rising sun.
There's no denying the original version of The Animals is a fucking banger, but there is a certain fragility that Joni emits with the simplicity of the acoustic guitar and her angelic voice, which, judging by the state of the vocals, I think is safe to say it was early in her career that it was recorded. The guitar part is also surprisingly simple for Joni, which is another cue as to when it was recorded. I think while many people have covered this song, Joni's version shows a young musician just starting to develop her own style and sound, which would become incredibly unique and influential in the coming years. It's always pretty interesting to hear how when sung by a woman, the song takes on a much different tone, especially this time around with Joni's vulnerable delivery. I'm gonna be honest here, I've never really been that big of a Mac Miller fan. The few times I listened to his music, it just didn't really strike me as all that special or interesting, but despite all that, this album really stuck with me throughout the year, which I think is proof of its great execution as an album and as a tribute to Mac Miller's life. The album explores Miller's struggles with addiction and his declining mental health in the time leading up to his death. Nowhere is this more apparent than on songs like the title track Circles, the closing track Once a Day, and the single Good News, where Miller expresses his frustrations with himself and his bad habits, and with people wanting to be around him when he's up, but never really being around to support him in his downward spiral. John Bryan's production on this album also really complements the tone and theme, with these angelic instrumental synths and chords that seem to lift up Mac's voice like big white clouds ascending to heaven. This production stands out most on the songs Complicated, That's on Me, Hand-Me-Downs, Surf, and one of my personal favorites, Blue World, which incorporates samples from the 1950s song It's a Blue World by the Four Freshmen. I also really enjoyed the cover of Arthur Lee's Everybody's Gotta Live.
Everybody's gotta live.
It's aged surprisingly well in the last year and is one of my personal favorites of 2020, so yeah, good album, thumbs up. Next up we have...
It didn't have a gun! Helicopters over my balcony. If the police can't arrest, they wanna smoke every ounce of me. Practice alchemy, see how the life converted.
There were some pretty good contenders for this category, but Terrace Martin, Denzel Curry, and Daylight really blew this one out of the water, and with the addition of Kamasi Washington's jazz interpolations, I can honestly say this is one of my favorite tracks from this year. The saxophone adds a sense of sorrow, franticness, and urgency that I feel is really the driving force of the track, and both Denzel Curry and Daylight bring their A-game with some pretty solid bars and a nice dose of passion and excitement. With all the turmoil and frustration at the moment, Pig's Feet really encompasses the outrage and bitterness caused by the events of this year, in a way that stood out and emerged as one of the best BLM tracks of 2020.
In the deepest ocean.
I've always felt that the best covers come when an artist takes a song and adds a twist to it that deters from the original and reinvents it just enough to match the artist's style and keep the best parts of the original intact. Leanne was able to do this just right. She took one of my favorite Radiohead songs and added a soulful vibe to it that makes it feel just about as enjoyable as the original while being its own thing entirely.
In this game.
Too many times. You're my baby.
There's a reason why I chose to include both of these remixes, and while it does somewhat have to do with me being too lazy to decide which one I like better, the main reason is because of how different, yet successful they are in their execution. Tyler's interpretation of LaRue's Automatic Driver took the original song and molded it to fit Tyler's style of production with pitched vocals, beautiful synth chords, and vocal interpolations. Tyler took the song and made it sound like his own, while Umru's style complements the song and enhances it, keeping the vibe and 100 gecs style intact in the process. It's basically a crazier, more chaotic version of the original, but it's still very recognizable by complementing Laura Les and Dylan Brady's already experimental Haywire sound. I also really like the addition of the phone on vibrate and other little details, even though every time I hear it, I think that my phone is ringing.